So welcome to the Nordic Woodshed. I'm Pat Halford. One of the things that's on my mind at the moment is the ease with which any of us can adopt generative AI across various functions, regardless of the size of the business that we're running. So whether you're an entrepreneur or running a SME, whether you've got an organization of 20 to 150 people, or indeed you're running a whole corporation or a division within a corporation, there's a lot of optionality that you have at the moment in terms of the types of tools that are coming out, and the way that we can actually automate or generate rather both content, actions and workflows so simply and so kind of cost effectively across the whole organization. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And I think that one of the things I'm trying to do here is to try and open up the discussion and kind of explore a little bit more about the speed with which we can actually transform our organizations and interact with our customers better, but also look across the different teams and the different functions within our teams, and also try and get a sense of how us as individual employees, but also as teams, work teams, and whole organizations are going to be transforming our skills and the way we work, and indeed the kind of resources that we're going to be looking to bring into organizations, and how they're going to have to be fully equipped already to be able to work with us in this kind of augmented way. And that's going to change everything over the next couple of years. And so the other thing that's interesting for me is when we start applying generative AI across different functions, whether it's sales and marketing or legal, financial, production, R&D, distribution, support organizations, or indeed the management and operations of the business, and of course actually interacting with the boards as well. One of the interesting things is if we think about the existing functions and what people are doing on a day-to-day basis at the moment, how much capacity can we release across those different functions by gradually applying generative AI capabilities? So we can apply them against, say, an individual's working activity, say in sales and marketing, or in distribution, or in any of the operational kind of functions. So maybe we can take out 20-30% of the actual manual tasks that people have traditionally been doing. So what happens when we start scaling that across an entire team, or indeed across an entire workflow? So what's the compound effect of all of those kind of percentage savings, and what can we actually do with the capacity that we release from the people? So, instead of spending days on end just analyzing spreadsheets or producing PowerPoints or bouncing between meetings or Zoom calls, what creative things can we do with that extra capacity from those people, from those working teams, from entire organizations? And that's something I think that we're going to start modeling. We're going to start seeing some radical opportunities there for companies to maybe start pivoting into new spaces without having to make major investments, because they've actually got a lot of the resource within their own organizations at the moment, so they don't have to go out and necessarily recruit a lot of extra resource, extra cost. That resource is already in the organization if you can actually release a lot of energy and a lot of effort from them by applying generative AI capabilities to various tasks and workflows. So and I think that the more that we start iterating on this across the different job functions, the faster it's going to pick up speed. And of course, these AI capabilities, they're what we're doing is we're actually seeing use cases from across different industries, whether we pick up something new from the legal industry, or from marcoms, marketing, communications use cases, and how they're applying generative AI. All of these things provide inspiration for us to actually start applying them in different ways to our own specific situations. And I think that it's also going to give us a bit more time to actually simulate business opportunities. I think organizational teams like, for example, human resources and the CFO, they're going to find themselves in a much more interesting situation, because they're going to have a lot more data and a lot more insights to actually analyze. Their organization's going to be shifting in real time. So traditional assumptions about annual plans and measurements, full planning, and all this kind of stuff. I think a lot of those kind of business assumptions with which those management functions tend to operate is going to compress. So these kind of teams and business teams, business leaders, they're going to have to start looking at things on a much more regular basis. But we're going to be able to simulate that, because we're going to have a lot more capability to actually look at our business and see how it's reacting in not quite in real time, but in pretty close to real time as well. And so I think the business is going to accelerate. Of course, what we're not doing is we're not operating in a bubble. So pretty much everyone is going to have access to all of these emerging generative AI capabilities. But it's really a question of taking ownership and grabbing hold of it and driving ourselves, and not necessarily waiting to see what everyone else is doing. Of course, you've got your traditional competitors maybe that are also engaged in some activities around deploying generative AI across these different functions. But then maybe some of your newer competitors could have been your customers, because perhaps you're doing things now, you're providing some services or products that actually these tools allow your customers to actually do some of that themselves, or maybe there's someone coming out from left field or right field who can actually mimic a lot of the workflows that you're currently engaged in, because they're applying some of these generative AI. So that kind of whole dynamic in terms of the competitive nature of the field, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a SME, or whether you're corporate, that's kind of all changing in real time as well. But the opportunity is to start looking adjacently for different business opportunities, and also to start just figuring out new ways of partnering with organizations. So, if you can actually speed things up, if you can reduce the amount of effort it takes to create a partnership or an alliance with an organization, then I think that you can explore adjacent opportunities a lot quicker as well. You don't necessarily have to go into it yourselves. You can go into it with another organization who maybe have a bit better grip of it, but you're providing some critical capability, and you can do that now because you can release capacity, because you're automating a lot of the traditional actions and workflows that you were doing. And I think another key area that's going to be disrupted a lot is around M&A, or mergers and acquisitions. I think I think we're going to see a trend towards less of that, because more organizations are going to realize that actually they don't have to buy effort, they don't have to buy resources. Maybe they'll still buy market share or some kind of product or technology, but or IP. But I think that the days of just buying massive amounts of teams and people and capacity, I think those days are coming to an end, simply because we can actually release a lot more capacity from our own organizations, and we're going to be automating so many of the functions anyway. So that whole M&A space is going to shift quite a lot, and that's going to also release a lot of energy, release a lot more money and investment to apply to different parts of the business as well. So there's a whole bunch of different things. I think also another thing is the ability to compress time and to compress costs. So by automating more of these workflows, by applying these generative AIs across the different functions, of course, we're compressing time at the same time as compressing cost, and we're releasing capacity. So the opportunity for transforming our whole cost base is absolutely huge. So these are just a few things that I'm really interested in. I'm going to be talking about them a bit more in a bit more detail in the Nordic Woodshed. So please join me if you like what you hear. Press like and subscribe, and I'll be back with more videos very shortly.